All right, everybody, it's time to do another problem using synthetic division. This is what we've been working on this week. So, here we go. We have an x to the fourth function here as our dividend. So this is what we're dividing. We're dividing it by x plus 2. So, in order to use synthetic division, or any kind of division with polynomials, we have to make sure that we're in standard form. So we need to be in order of the degree of x. So the highest degree is first, the next is second, the next is third, and so on. So we need to make sure that we're in order for this. It will not work out if you're not putting it in order. The other part of that order is if this function starts with x to the fourth, that means I need to have all of those powers underneath x to the fourth. That is exponents under that. So I need to have an x to the third term. I need to have an x squared term. I need to have an x or an x to the first term. And I need to have a constant. Notice our function here only has two terms, x to the fourth and negative 32. So I'm going to take those and I'm going to fill them in here. What I'm going to fill in is the coefficient. Right here, we have 1 x to the fourth. If we don't see it, it's 1. So I'm going to put a 1 there. I don't have an x to the third, I don't have an x squared, and I don't have an x to the first. I do have a constant. My constant is negative 32. Now, in these places where we don't have anything, we're going to put in a 0. So we're putting in 3 zeros as placeholders, because we might get an x to the third term out. We might get an x squared term out. We don't know yet until we go through this process. So once we have that, it's time to go ahead and write those out. We're starting with 1. Then we have 0, 0, 0, negative 32. So that gets us through this first part of our synthetic division. It's just identifying those coefficients. For now, we are just ignoring the variable, and that's okay. That's what this is designed for, so that we don't have to work with that variable. This box here is our next stop. I need to figure out what goes in here. In order to do that, I'm going to take the divisor, x plus 2, and I'm going to set it equal to 0. Anytime, take your divisor, set it equal to 0, solve for x. In this case, we're going to subtract 2 from both sides, because we're looking for the number that makes that statement true. If I plug in negative 2 to this equation, negative 2 plus 2 equals 0. That is correct. So I would leave it like that, as x equals negative 2. So that is the number that's going to go here. I don't need the x with it. I'm just taking that negative 2, but it comes from here. My next step in synthetic division is to start to bring down, we're going to bring down that first term. So bringing down that first term, or that first coefficient, I'm going to bring it down, put it in the quotient. Then I'm going to do this. I'm going to multiply -2 times 1. I'm going to put that answer right there. Again, we're not worried about x. We're not worried about x to the third. We're not worried about x squared. We're not worried about those. We're only worried about the coefficients in this. That's what makes this easier than long division. I know we haven't talked about long division, but we're getting there. That will be another option if you like that better than this synthetic division. So once I get my -2 there, I'm going to do 0 plus -2. 0 plus -2 is -2. So on this each time, I'm going to add each time I go through. So I'm going to write add here. Each time I go through, I'm going to add. Each time I start back here, I am multiplying. So let's do it again. I added, so now I go back here and I'm going to multiply. -2 times -2, that gives +4. 0 plus 4 is 4. So I'm done with that one, and I'm going to move on to the next one. -2 times 4 is 8, and 0 plus 8 is 8. Then we're going to do -2 times 8. That goes here. -2 times 8. Let me go back a second. I found my mistake. -2 times 4 is -8. And 0 plus -8 is -8. Now I'm back on the right track. I knew I did something crazy. -2 times -8 is 16. And -32 plus 16 is -16. Now we talked in class about that last number being the remainder. Always. This last number is always the remainder. Every time. If it's 0, then you have nothing left over, which means that what you started with is a solution. So, how do we write the remainder? That's the next part. The remainder is written as a fraction over as a fraction. Write the remainder over the original divisor. Now, I'm saying the original divisor here for a reason. The original divisor, okay? That's not what we divided by. That's not -2. We're not going to put it over -2. We're going to put it over this original divisor of x plus 2. So we're going to do this. -16 over x plus 2. Hang on. Sorry, for a minute there I thought I was recording without sound. I just want to make sure that was good. So I've put my remainder over my original divisor, and now I'm going to put back my variable. This first spot here after the remainder, that -8, I'm not going to do anything with it. I do need to make sure that I have a sign between that -8 and the remainder. I can either have that plus sign there and then the -16, or I could move that minus sign here and leave nothing with that -16. I could do it either way. Both are correct. Just as long as you have a sign between those. Now, that's our constant. This next one gets x. The one after that gets x squared. Our final one gets x to the third. So now I'm just going to write it out underneath. So we had that -x, we have 4x, and because I didn't have a sign, it's most likely positive. Go back and check, but it's most likely positive if you didn't put a sign. We're going to do -2x squared here, and x to the third here. Now, a little trick whenever you're doing this, you should have a quotient that comes out 1 degree less than your original dividend. We started with x to the fourth. Because we're dividing by x plus 2, I know it doesn't feel like we divided by x, but we have. Whenever we divide by x, our degree is going to lower by 1, because x to the fourth divided by x is x to the third. So every time you're going to be down 1 degree between your quotient, between your dividend and your quotient. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Just reach out. You guys know how to get a hold of me. My number's at the top of your exit tickets. If you want to get a hold of me that way, or send me an email. I know I'll be out, but you guys can still get a hold of me if you need help with something. So, good luck. If you have any questions, reach out, or I will see you in class on Friday. Have a good day, guys.